What's out there? What creates the shadows in the corners or the creatures of the dark? Who are those on the other side? What do they have to say? This is the Gateway Podcast. This is not your normal style of paranormal talk radio. Brought to you live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans.
Welcome to this episode of the Gateway Podcast, live from Public Network Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. I'm your host, C.L. Thomas. Hey everybody, how's everyone doing? I just got back from Gotham City, that's New York, for those who don't know. I'm sure everybody knows that, right? It was 26 degrees when I left. When I arrived in Vegas last night, I came in about almost 9 o'clock, I think. It was 71 degrees out here. So we're doing pretty good weather-wise. I was in search of haunted locations while I was out in Manhattan, wandering around. And it's funny, when you're in New York City, I'm starting to get to know the city quite often. For those that don't know, my home office is actually located in New York City. So I go there periodically to sign contracts and office stuff, normal office stuff, to find out what my schedule is, who I'm working with, that sort of thing. But I had to go there Friday. I had a bunch of meetings all day Saturday. But I had the day off Thursday, and I had most of the day off on Friday and a little bit of time on Sunday. And so I was kind of running around trying to find something haunted. And it's when you're in a place like that, it's kind of hard to imagine anything being haunted with all of the noise and cars and bustle and just all the movement in the city. But believe it or not, there are haunted locations in New York City. So I stayed at the Sheraton in downtown on 53rd Street. And that hotel is pretty haunted. There was a bunch of people that I talked to, hotel staff that have had all kinds of experiences there. And it used to be an older hotel, and the Sheraton bought it, and they're in the process of renovating it. So it's pretty interesting, some of the stories that came out and some of the experiences that we had at that hotel. But also, did you know that New York City actually has a catacomb? I did not know this. Some other person gave me that tidbit. It actually was Michelle Welsh. She's a writer and psychic medium and a friend of mine. She mentioned that, there's a catacomb in New York, and it's the only catacomb located in the United States. It's the only one that we have. And a lot of people just don't know about it. So it was probably about, I'd say 3 miles from the location I was staying at. So I hopped on the subway, ran down there just to see this place, and I got a tour, of course. You got to get a tour when you go there. They do have candlelight tours of this place too. But it's under the old Basilica of St. Peter's, the old church there, the old cathedral. And this church is close to about 250 years old. And so what happened was they have a little graveyard on the top, and that's where all the really old stuff is. But they ran out of room, of course, because it's New York City. And they started burying everything underneath the church. So there's tunnels under the church that go all the way out to the road that have thousands of people buried in there. And they're still burying people in there today. So think about how long and how many people are down there. You don't have any bones exposed. They have them pretty much sealed up in the walls and in the floors and things like that. But it exists. It's a pretty neat place. So when you go into these old locations, though, it just brings so much energy to your life. I'm sorry, my phone is going off here. There's so much energy to it. You pick up so much, especially if you have abilities. It's like a time warp, where you're picking up energy from so many different places at one time. And it becomes confusing, but it's strange to see these places like this where you have, sometimes it's like human tragedies, like we're going to talk about tonight about Gettysburg and the battlefield and all the tragic stuff that happened there. And yet, there's kids touring this place with ice cream cones and stuff. It's very strange. My guest tonight, and I have to read this. She's the host of the Fear of Living podcast. She's also owner and CEO of Paranormal Brew, and she's also a new contributor to the magazine, Eerie Expeditions Magazine. Tonight, we're going to discuss her insights and experiences with Gettysburg, because she has a whole lot of insight and knowledge and history with this place. So let's get her on here. Hi, Taryn. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thank
I'm,
you. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to have you on.
Well, all you have to say is Gettysburg, and I'm there.
So, Gettysburg, it's interesting because all the paranormal investigators go to Gettysburg, even though there's a whole lot of other battlefields all over, especially in the southern United States, but everyone kind of flocks to Gettysburg. Why is that?
Gettysburg, hold on a second. I don't know what's happening there, but anyway, all I can do is mute. As soon as I start to hear it, I'll hit mute, and then it's good for a little bit. Gettysburg is the biggest military national park. So there's a lot of area to cover. You're not bumping into each other if you're out in the field or if you're, whatever. There's, location. Gettysburg is just the entire town is the battlefield, not where the monuments are. Where all the monuments are, is the park, is the national park. Which there were battles that took place, in the park, but the entire town is the battlefield. There were battles all over that place. When I went to Gettysburg for the first time in 2006, I was literally drugged there by my mom. She wanted me to go. I had no interest in Gettysburg whatsoever. I didn't know anything about Gettysburg, and at this time, I wasn't even into the paranormal. She wanted to go because they were having the reenactments, and she wanted the history. Now, my mom was into the paranormal stuff, so she wanted to go out there to try to have an experience. I thought she was nuts, right? And I was interested. I was an enthusiast, should I say? I liked watching the shows. I liked reading the books. I liked watching movies, but I myself did not want to have any paranormal experiences. It scared me. Anyway, I went out to Gettysburg with her the first time, and again, this was before I was into the paranormal. I instantly fell in love with it. I don't know what happened. I stepped out of the car, and I was literally like, my heart started pounding, and I was like, where has this place been my whole life? Like, I can't believe I've never been here before. We were there 2 days. I cried when we left. Like, I fell in love with it that hard. Like, I planned another trip 2 weeks later. I was out there for a week, 2 weeks later, because I couldn't stay away from it. But during my first trip is when I had my first, I call it a cognitive paranormal experience. Because after having that experience, I then went on to do some training and join a group. And when you learn about stuff, you learn that, oh, when I was 7 years old, that thing that happened to me, that could have been a paranormal experience because it was weird. It was strange. It was odd. I can't explain it. So there has been things, hold on, that have happened to me. I don't know what's happening. That's never happened before. So I have no idea. But, I look back and there were things that happened to me in my life, younger and going forward, but I, at the time, just either forgot about it or just didn't even know what was happening, But Gettysburg, the first thing that happened, me and my mom were in the middle of the battlefield. Now, at this time, in 2006, you were allowed to be in the park until 10 o'clock at night. Now you're only allowed to be in the park a half hour after sunset. Because people deface and they act up and they do stuff, and I think also, this is just rumors. I don't know how true this is, but I think they kind of cut down on how many park patrol. What are they? Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank.
The Rangers.
Thank you. The park. I think they cut down on the Rangers, so it was like there was like a whole big mixture of things. But anyway, me and my mom, she wanted to get out. We were at what I know very well now is the wheat field. She wanted to get out and go walk into the wheat field, and it was like 9:45. I was like, it's pitch black. I was like, no, I'm not. You go ahead. I'll wait here. While we're talking about it, she's kind of like on the passenger side, like, when you're talking to somebody, so her back was kind of up against the door. we're talking, and all of a sudden I smelled what I thought, and I'm sorry but I thought she passed gas. Right.
The sulfury smell. That sulfury smell is always associated with negative stuff, though, it seems like.
But it's also a smell of gunpowder.
Oh, that's right.
So,
you're absolutely correct.
Yes. So it's also a smell of gunpowder. I always tend to, think positive first before I go right to negative. Because yes, you are correct. That is something, but also, like I said, it is the smell of gunpowder. But I smelled the smell, and I was like, oh my gosh, did you? I don't know if I could say fart, but I was like, did you fart? And she's like, no, I thought you did. And I was like, oh my God. And then on her window was like these 3 hard bangs, boom, 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 like the window shook. And I put my foot on the gas pedal and I took off. She's like, what are you doing? I want to talk. I was like, drop and roll. I'll wait for you outside the park, somewhere else. I was like, but I am not sticking around to see what that was, because we didn't see anything. That same weekend, we were, now this is a woman that wanted to see something. I honestly don't know what that noise is. She wanted, I had my phone plugged in. I'm going to unplug my phone and see if it goes away. But she wanted to have a paranormal experience really bad. So we were staying at the Doubleday Inn in Gettysburg. And that is one of the only inns that's located inside the park. So unless you're staying at one of those inns or you own a house that's in the park, you're not allowed in the park a half hour after sunset. So we're going to our inn, and it was probably, I don't know, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And we had just finished one of those ghost tours, right? And it was like a lantern one, and then you stuck around with the group and they took you on this like ghost hunt. And where we went was, there's a road called Steinwire Ave in Gettysburg. Behind Steinwire Ave, like the Dobbins house is on Steinwire Ave, like, and all these things. But behind it, there's something called a creek bed, and we were back there, and I don't know anything at this point. I am not into the paranormal. I'm doing this for my mom. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I'm scared because I'm like, I don't want to see or hear nothing or feel nothing. There's a big group of us, and all of a sudden, one side of me, now we were there in the summer. The one side of me is freezing cold. Cold. It was the strangest feeling I ever had, because I'm normal temperature here. I'm cold here. Goosebumps, everything. And I had said this out loud to the group. I said, this side of me is like really cold. So they kind of like get their attention towards me, and they're, I know the best I can do. They're getting their attention towards me. Finally, one of the team members, a guy, he starts to walk over and it goes away. And I said, it went away. Now, mind you, not just the cold, but also I had what was a K2 meter at the time. I had a K2 meter in my hand. The lights are going up and down with this thing coming and going. So anytime I was standing by myself, it was up on the red, and I was freezing cold on this side. Anytime somebody would come towards me, it would all stop. It would go away. So finally, they're like, all right, let's do an EVP session. So they start asking questions, and the one girl's like, do you like her? And we listened back, and that was the first time I ever heard an EVP.
What did you feel like when you? I have a story about this. This is why I'm asking. How did you feel when you first heard that voice come over?
Oh my gosh, I wasn't scared. First of all, I couldn't explain it, because when she said, do you like her? You hear this male voice say, no, I love her. And I was like, I went through a few different emotions. First, I was like, nobody talked when you said that. She was like, I know. And I'm like, then what is that? What was that? Where did it come from? I immediately was more inquisitive and more like, I need to find out how this happened. What is that? Who is that? And they're like, back then, just make sure you tell them to stay there. I'm like, okay, well, stay here. You don't come anywhere with me. You know what I mean? I couldn't sleep that night. And not saying because I was scared. I was just like so astonished of what had happened. First, we had this thing happen in the park. Then this happens, right? And the next night, we're driving to our hotel, to our B&B at Doubleday Inn. And my mom, she's like, now for anybody that doesn't go there, it's going to be hard for me I'm going to try to explain the best you can. But as you're driving, we're driving this way. All back here is all fields. It's a railroad cut. There's fields. There's a house over here, and our inn is over here. So we're making a right onto the road to go towards where we're staying. And as we're making the right, my mom's looking. She's like, "Why are all those rangers in the field out there? Something must be going on." And I was like, I'm driving, so I'm trying to see what she's seeing. I'm like, I don't see anything. She goes, "You don't see all those rangers?" She's like, "No." And then, hands to God, she literally jumped in the seat. And she looked at me, and that saying, "You look like you just saw a ghost." I literally saw that. Like she looks at me, she's like, "Did you just see them?" And I'm like, "No." She goes, "There was 4 Confederate soldiers walking almost walked right through your car. Like they were walking. They didn't even. It was like they didn't see us.
Like a resident. It was like resident.
Right, residual. Right.
Yeah.
I immediately look in my rear view. I don't see anything. I would have seen them crossing the road. I go up, I turn around, I scan with my headlights because I wasn't getting out of the car. I scan with my headlights with the car. The fields are vast; they're huge. So there's nowhere if it was a real person, there's nowhere they could have went that we wouldn't have seen them because there's nowhere to hide. You know what I mean? There's nowhere to could they have hid behind the monuments? But by the time they got to the monuments, we would have seen them. So that was another thing. I unfortunately didn't see it, but I know my mom saw something. Whatever, I don't know what she saw, but she saw something.
Did you grow up with the paranormal? What's a little bit of your background?
So my mom's always been a believer in it. The house that I grew up in had weird stuff happening, but I don't know how to explain how it made me feel prior. Like things happened in the house that I lived in, but it was like it happened and then you forgot it. Then I forgot about it. It wasn't something that I dwelled on. It wasn't. I just know that for some reason I would sleep with my back to my room. I would have to have the night light on and I'd have to have the radio on really low because I didn't want to hear nothing, see nothing, feel nothing, So my mom was a believer. Knowing what I know now, yes, I did have experiences when I was younger, not constantly. And I didn't know what they were, at the time. So yes, the long answer to your question is I guess I've always had experiences with the paranormal, but I just didn't know that until I knew what I knew, if that makes sense.
So years later, you have this experience at Gettysburg and then you just become kind of engrossed in it.
Yeah, I became less afraid of it, and I started to amateurly ghost hunt. Now, this is 2006. Ghost Hunters came out in 2004. So I loved Ghost Hunters. I watched every episode. I think those guys are great. I love them. I still love them to this day.
And that's the one with
Jason Hollis and Sherry. Yes, they're good friends of mine now, and I got to tell you, they're the down to earth, solve the earth people. They're amazing. But I grew up watching them. So 2 years in, so I think I know what I'm doing. Okay. It started out me and my sister and her boyfriend would just go to cemeteries. Now I live in Jersey, and I live near the Pine Barrens, Batstow, where the Jersey Devil supposedly is, or where the legend comes from. So there's a bunch of cemeteries. Atzion is another area. Atzion and Batstow are right next to each other. They were highly like Native American Indian, areas on top of, it just dates back to maybe the early 1600s. Anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's how it might go back further. I don't know these areas. One of the EVPs I actually shared with you is two of them is where I got from. Now I'm only saying I shared them with you. I knew they weren't Gettysburg, but I shared them with you because they were my first amateur EVPs caught, and they're literally Class A EVPs in my opinion.
Do you want me to play those real quick?
Yeah, if you want. It's the one that's called Beth. And let me see.
I got Rockwell sign.
I didn't send you.
The door's open, and are you trying to sleep?
I didn't send you the other ones.
No.
Darn it.
That's
I
all
can
right.
send them real quick if you want, but they're really good.
We could always post them later on.
Yeah. So yeah, in 2000, around probably about 2007 is when I started doing this, right? Where I amateurly, me and my sister were, we went to back in Badstow, and then I started to watch more of the shows. I started to get into it a little bit more. I started to watch John Edwards, Crossing Over. I still love him to this day. I don't care what anyone says about John Edwards. That's my boy. I love him. So I eventually wind up joining a group. And I went to this Paracon in Gettysburg, and it was called Phenomenology. Mm-hmm. By this point, I'm going to Gettysburg. I went to in 2006, so I've already been to Gettysburg probably about 10 times before this Paracon came back. Around the next year, I went by myself. And at that time, the paranormal community was amazing. Everybody was so welcoming. I was there by myself, and people were just welcoming me with open arms. Come investigate with us. Come here with us. Come do this. There was a group there that said, "We're from Jersey. Join our group."
That's the old days of paranormal, huh?
Yeah. It was
not like
nice.
that anymore.
It was nice.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about money back then. It was about investigating. It was about having experiences, ghost hunting. It was about,
really helping people.
Yeah, helping people and teaching and educating and learning and trying to find the answers. It wasn't about what TV show can I get on.
Yeah. It's unfortunate what's happening with paranormal right now.
Yeah. So Gettysburg again, kind of just to me is one of the best places on this planet that you can go to, not just for paranormal. It's got the history, the paranormal. They have festivals. There's always something to do there. Because I get a lot of times, what's there to do in Gettysburg? I'm like, how much time you got? I could literally be an event planner or like a trip planner for people for Gettysburg. You know what I mean?
You've been to Gettysburg so many times. Have you gotten to know the spirits that come through now after multiple visits? Or is it always a different?
It's always different. Even like I stayed in Lincoln Square quite often. What I have found is that the more I stay there, the more the energy, I feel like the more comfortable it is there with me. Gettysburg as a whole, it's always different. There's always something different. I mean, I've heard disembodied voices. I've heard cannons. I've heard muster, like the drums that, you know what I mean? Like the muster, I've smelled horses. I've smelled cigar smoke. I've smelled, like I've had all of my senses tintillated there in Gettysburg. I mean, it is. I mean, things. Even me, I don't see things, and I have seen things in Gettysburg. Whereas normally I'm not somebody that is. I can't see things at all, and I've seen what looked like a World War II soldier walking across one of the fields, which was odd, right? I mean, World War II, but then again, you have to think Eisenhower was there. You know what I mean, and all that. So Camp Colt was there, and so there's Gettysburg has a lot of history. A lot of history. It goes back Native American Indians, like it goes back even further than that. One of the bridges there has dinosaur footprints on it.
Oh, wow.
So they would use the boulder. The boulders are millions of years old, and the rock formations and the rocks there. So they use some of those rocks to build the bridges with, and use them to build some of the monuments and stuff. And they found these dino prints and decided to use them, and they used them. They put them in the bridge.
Oh, that's neat. That's really neat.
Yeah, it's really cool to see it. It's on two pieces of the bridge. I always say it's Jimmy Hoffa. It's Jimmy Hoffa's handprint.
We thought that they found him, at Lake Mead a couple summers ago in one of the barrels of, the bodies kept floating up when the water was going down. We thought that was Hoffa, but it turned out it was somebody else.
Yeah. So they have that. I mean, there's so many. Every time I go to Gettysburg, I learn something different. And I have literally been there. I always do this wrong, but that's the coordinates for Gettysburg right there.
So you even have the coordinates on your arm from Gettysburg. Do you think you were there somehow? Like, what is the connection with you in Gettysburg? Do you think you were maybe part of that battle in a past life? Do you think one of your ancestors were in that battle?
I've tried to do the ancestry thing. I'm a daughter of the Revolutionary War, so I'm a daughter of the Revolutionary. I know I've had great 6th great grandfather, 5th great grandfather in the Revolutionary War. There were Kerpers, my last name. There were Kerpers that fought in the Civil War and fought at Gettysburg, but I'm having trouble connecting, so I don't know if they were related. There is a Kerper hyphen Dihl, Dihl, buried in the Gettysburg Evergreen Cemetery, the People's Cemetery there. Can't connect the dots there either. But I do know that my great grandfather died of a massive heart attack on Big Round Top in 1972. So that's I got that connection there. But that I don't know. It's strange because I can't compare this to anything else. So I don't know why the second I got out of my car, I felt what I felt. It was like a pull. Like I inhaled home.
Yeah. It's like a piece of you is trapped now. Well, not trapped, but it's there.
But I say that. I mean, I wrote a poem even about it because I say every time I leave, it keeps a piece. Like I literally, when I go there, again, it's not just paranormal. It's my natural Xanax. I feel like myself when I'm there. It's Little Round Top. I go and I watch the sunset there as much as I can. And I have a certain rock.
And there's a picture of it, isn't there?
Yes.
And this
I did.
You want to tell me about some of this stuff real quick?
Yeah. So these are just some pictures I take. So I like to take scenery pictures in Gettysburg. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. This is what you would see if you got up early in the morning and it's dead quiet, no pun. And you see this fog rolling through the hills and through the fields. And there's some really awesome pictures you can get, but it's very eerie almost. It's like that death quiet. you're just expecting to just see a regiment of soldiers walking across the field, in this through coming through this like dense fog. It's just one of my favorite pictures. I took several of them, but I shared just that one with you.
So when I lived in Nashville, we lived on the front line of the Battle of Nashville, and the house we rented was very, very haunted. The book I wrote about that experience, Dancing with Demons, that's actually what it's about. It's about that experience. But not too far down the road, Franklin Pike, for those that know that area, there's a road from Nashville to Franklin. It's about 14 miles. It's called Franklin Pike. Franklin is a little town the entire town was the battlefield of Franklin. And it looks very similar to this, actually.
Yeah, Gettysburg's gorgeous. No matter the season, you can always get some good photos from there.
It's interesting. They all have that same, like the same walls, the same everything. I used to find like the little 3-ringers all the time with the metal detector and like little cannonballs and.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a whole bunch of that stuff.
There's now this is me on my rock in Gettysburg. This is Little Round Top. This is the sunset. This is like, if you go to Gettysburg, the number one spot you want to be for the sunset is right on top of Little Round Top. It's breathtaking, and it's so relaxing. The rocks are warm from the sun all day, and you're laying there. I was going to say, I bring a pillow and a blanket. I literally fall asleep. I've woken up at like 9:30 at night. Like, where am I? Because I'm so relaxed and so zenned out, and so, and it just, I can't even, that I can feel that picture. I look at that and I can feel that. It's crazy.
I'm looking at it and I see like a bunch of battle people.
Yeah, I mean, it's for what happened there, 165 years ago. If that's off the top of my head, is probably I'd have to, in 1863 what happened. It is probably one of the most peaceful places I've ever been. I would love to be able to go back and see what it was like before the battle, a snippet of what it was like during the battle, and then what it was after.
Howie says, we have all stood there many times watching the sunset.
Yeah.
I've never been to Gettysburg, and I signed up for that meeting that you told me to go to, that Paracon. So I'll get to see it for the first time.
Girl, if you need a tour guide, I'm your girl.
I will definitely need a tour guide.
This is just another one of the fog. I love taking pictures of the fog because it just, to me, I can picture, like I said, a regiment of soldiers just coming through the fields, walking through the fields, or almost as if it's like gun smoke, This is a cool picture because this is a monument, and this was during the summertime, and I shared this on a lot of the Gettysburg. I share this on these pages, Gettysburg pictures and stuff, and everybody loved this one. They're like, it really looks like a soldier on his horse, but it's a monument, but it looks really cool from the angle of the picture and everything.
It is a really neat picture.
Yeah. This is a tree that was it's a shame you can't see the whole picture, but this tree was planted where Camp Colt, in honor of Camp Colt, where Eisenhower, they did tank training and stuff like that. It's crazy to think they did that because now you can't have the reenactments on the battlefield because they're afraid of what it'll do to the earthworks and everything. But they had like tank trainings and stuff during Camp Colt at Gettysburg. And this tree was actually planted for that.
That's interesting. So I got to ask you, you look at something like this, where's that picture right here? And you just imagine like thousands and thousands of people dying on a field like this.
Yep. Yeah. 50,000 casualties.
But then look how pretty this is. Do you think it's become like a place where there's like a collective healing going on?
For sure. I mean, I honestly, there are people that go there and say that they feel the sadness or they feel this, they feel that. But for me, I feel like I'm picking up on, and I'm not a psychic medium, but because I don't feel that dread or feel that sorrow, I feel like I might be resonating a little bit more with those that were like in between the battles where they're sitting by the campfires and they're talking about their
Mhm.
loved ones and they're having their liquors and their cigarettes, and they're talking about, oh, can't wait to go home tomorrow, like those in between things. I don't think I'm capable of picking up on the bad stuff because a lot of bad stuff happened there. A lot of bad stuff. Um, this year, I'm just a little proud of it. This is a tour guide book that the author actually reached out to me and asked me if he could use two of my pictures in the tour guide book. So yeah, two of my pictures are in this little book here for the peach orchard, and makes it even more awesome because my group is the Paranormal Peaches. So the fact that it's in this peach orchard book was, was cool.
Yes. Okay, that's something I never really thought about. So, does Pennsylvania have peaches? Peach orchards?
So this was a peach orchard. Across the street is the Sherfy house, and the Sherfys actually did um, farm peaches, and yeah, I mean the peach trees are still there. What happened there, which was sad, that was one of the places where um, this some of the one of the during one of the battles, during the day they couldn't go get their wounded soldiers.
Mhm.
They would have to wait till nighttime. So a lot of times, like if the battles happened early, they would have to wait until nighttime to go retrieve their wounded. But unfortunately, there were wild hogs that were around that got loose during, all the fighting and this and that. And the wild hogs got to a lot of these men before.
Oh, that's so gruesome.
Yes, there's a
Oh
lot
my
of things that
goodness.
happened there that were not good.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more you hear about these kind of war stories, I know Franklin has a whole bunch of just absolute horror stories of what came out of the Franklin battle. That one took place, just real quick, because I know we're talking about Gettysburg and not Franklin, but there's a house there called the Carter House, and there was, I think, 40 kids and a bunch of women hiding in the little cram basement from the war that was going on all around them, and they were stuck down there for I think 48 hours of this battle going on, and they could hear everything going on around them. And the story goes that the soldiers were actually banging on the door trying to get in. Um, and they had guns and everything. They would have shot them if they would have gotten into the house because they were trying to protect the kids and the women at that time. When they emerged from the house, the amount of slaughter that they found all around them. And can you imagine being an 11-year-old kid coming out of there and then having to stay down there in the first place for 48
Right.
hours in the dark? I mean, I don't know about you, but I would have to go to the bathroom at some point. Like what
Right.
did these people do? And then
Right.
just seeing something like that,
Right.
people that are just absolutely in the worst conditions ever. I mean, we're not talking about bullets that just penetrate you like nowadays, right? Where you have a hole and there's like a little bit of blood. Those three ringers, when they hit you, they're designed to explode. So they would just tear through your bones and just absolutely, that's why, they were cutting off their legs and everything
Well, they
else.
would have gotten lead poisoning. You know what I
Right.
mean? They could go right in there to lead poisoning, and I mean, I think they all have those stories, right? Like Gettysburg,
Mhm.
Tilly Pierce. Tilly Pierce was 15 years old, and she was, helping, and she at one point looked out her back window and saw limbs, just limbs,
Right.
window height of limbs. I can't imagine seeing that. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, but horses and I mean, like it wasn't just the soldiers, you know what I mean? You had the horses, and the horses were being killed by, because of battle,
Right.
the regiments all had mascots that were dogs, so I mean, it wasn't just people, and you think this little town of Gettysburg, 50,000 casualties in 24 to 48 hours. Casualties being dead, wounded, missing. That's what they include casualties. So it wasn't like 50,000 deaths, but it would have been deaths, wounded, captured, missing altogether. And, it was the turning point of the Civil War. My feelings of Gettysburg is the heartbeat of our nation. It literally is the heartbeat of our nation. That's what I feel when I go there. Like, I'm a very patriotic person. And I support our military. I love military history. I love, I support, all that stuff. So for me, Gettysburg is really special and really haunted.
It's got to be. You got to think about what happened though with all of those souls that just were involved in that. Not only the soldiers and the young kids that were soldiers that were dying on these fields too, but the people that were coming in and having to clean that up. Most of the time, it was the women that were staying behind in the towns that had to clean all that up. Imagine seeing that and going through something like that, and the hatred that was experienced between. I mean, these were like, some of them were neighbors, right, and relatives and stuff, and then all of a sudden they're divided by a civil war. I just can't even imagine.
There's a spot in Gettysburg. There's a spot in Gettysburg that it's called Culp's Hill. Culp's Hill, to me, is probably one of the more of the hot spots. I know a lot of people have, like, they always say Devil's Den, or they say Triangular Field. But they're more they have a lot more traffic too because of that. But Culp's Hill, Wesley Culp, he actually has his family farm here in Gettysburg, right? He leaves to go fight with the Confederacy.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he leaves, goes fights. What happens? They wind up coming back to Gettysburg, and Wesley Culp is shot on poetically shot on his family's farm and killed. So, I mean, there's so many little backstories to the war as well. You know what I mean? So
right.
You're constantly, Gettysburg has everything.
It sounds like it. I'm really looking forward to getting out there. Well, hold on. There's more of these things that you got that you sit on.
Yeah, that's Little Round Top. I could sit there for days. I said, I just want to build a little tiny house up there.
It looks amazing.
It is. So this is my only apparition photo in the 20 years that I've been investigating and taking pictures. I wasn't ghost hunting. I was just taking scenery pictures. I was on the bridge over the railroad cut. And I didn't even notice this in my pictures. A friend of mine that was with me said, "What is that?" And I'm looking, I go, "Holy shit." Sorry. I still am like, I can't say 100%, but I sent this picture out. I had several people, Mark Nesbitt being one. If people don't know Mark Nesbitt, please look him up. He does a lot of research. He was a guide, a park ranger, and I think he was a park ranger, and an author. He does Ghosts in Gettysburg, and I sent it to him, and I've gone out there, tried to redo this picture over and over again, and I can't seem to get anything that looks similar. But a lot of people do believe that this is an apparition photo of maybe a Confederate soldier. So
is that the original photo right there?
Yeah, it's cropped. The original is like really, you could, if you saw the original, you could see, but this is just cropped closer. I don't know how to edit photos, so that one before was a museum in Gettysburg actually hung it up in their museum, and they kind of darkened it a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't know how to do that. And I'm too afraid I'm going to mess up my picture, so I don't touch it.
It'd be interesting to see that one inverted. Sometimes if you invert a photo,
Yeah.
it'll show. Like I've gotten a couple images like that where it looks like a shadow figure, and then I inverted it, and it's an actual figure standing there.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
That's
I mean, it's not a shadow only because you can see the shadows on the other side of the
right.
of the tracks, and there's color to it. Kind of looks like a jacket with boots, hair. You know,
It does. It sure does.
Yeah,
like a long wool coat that they would have worn.
Yeah. So, is it an apparition? I cannot say 100%, but I mean, I believe there's something there. The people that I sent it to literally had it for over a year before they got back to me, and then said that they too believe. Mark Nesbitt, we went back and forth. He had questions. I answered his questions, and then he said I can't say 100%, but I can say 99% that's an apparition photo, and that would be all I got ever.
Well, that's a good catch. It really is.
Photos are hard. Photos are hard to get.
Look at that. That's pretty amazing. All right, what is this right here?
So again, Gettysburg. Now this full spectrum camera, the other one was taken with my just a digital camera. This was a full spectrum camera. Again, I was just taking pictures. I love the way the full spectrum camera, the color and the crispness of everything in a photo. So that's why I was taking pictures. But if you see, there is a mist of some sort to the side of the monument there. And then I had learned that there was a colonel that was shot and mortally wounded there in that spot afterwards.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. This is Loki. Sorry. He's since I was away, he needs a lot of mama time right now, unfortunately.
I feel you. So that's a missed photo, and that is probably, to my knowledge, that's the only missed photo that I have. Again, photos are so hard to come by. I don't know if you can zoom in, but I'm not trying to be greedy in my photos. I do believe that this mist is here, but then to the side of the tree, you see the mist, and then you see that tree, and then you can kind of see. It always looks like two soldiers standing there to me.
You know what I'll do is I'll take this photo and post it on social media.
Oh, so yeah.
Can go ahead if I have your permission to do that, and then people
absolutely
can look at it.
Yeah.
For themselves.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a missed photo taken in Gettysburg. Gettysburg never disappoints. I'm going to tell you that right now. I mean, I think even if you're going just for the history, you might. Oh, this is awesome. So this is on Sachs Bridge. Sachs Bridge is one of the oldest covered bridges. It's one of the biggest tourist spots in Gettysburg. Sachs Bridge is not federally owned, so there's no shutdown time. You can go there all hours of the night. You won't get in trouble. Just be respectful. But Sachs Bridge actually was rebuilt. It was built, and it was there during the Civil War, but then either a flood, or I think it was a flood that went through, or fire. I can't remember offhand. That almost destroyed all of it, but they were able to salvage some of the beams. And there's graffiti and carvings throughout this entire bridge, sadly, but this is the oldest one that I found so far. It says WB 1877. And I have scoured through that whole thing trying to find, but this is the oldest one so far. So I think that's so cool because it's one of the original beams of the bridge.
That is pretty neat. Somebody's name or something,
Yeah.
I was a kid. And then this.
So so these are EVPs that I got in Gettysburg. I told you I stay at the Inn at Lincoln Square. The door, this one is a little hard to hear, but like I keep it because I know it. I know it happened. I saw it happen. If you can hear us, you can kind of hear. So it was the basement door where we were at. You can kind of hear the clicking of and the inn dates back to the early 1800s. You can hear the clicking of the different ways they had to open up the door. You get this click, 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 and then you just hear. And it's a little tough to hear here, but you can hear the from the door, and then you hear us like the basement door just opened by itself, like it just flew open.
Let me see if I could play it. Hopefully, I can.
That's Rockwell. That's not the right one. There we go.
Oh, it must not have transferred. Dang it.
Oh, no?
No, it didn't. It didn't upload. That's too bad.
Oh, that's all right.
I wonder why that didn't work.
You know what? Maybe I could play it for, you know what? Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me play. I'll try to play. I don't know if you'll be able to hear the door. But I might be able to give me 1 second. So all right, I'll try to play the door opens by itself. But I just don't know if you guys will be able to hear it very well because this is phone to speaker. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'll try to play it. Or I could just play Are You Trying to Sleep? Because that one's like a woman standing in the room with us.
Yeah, play that one.
Okay.
You know what, Taryn? I can always just post these as well. So for those listening who want to hear these EVPs that we're talking about, as well as the photo, I'll go ahead and post those on Facebook.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so we were in the Lincoln Square. We're the only ones there, and we're shutting everything off to do an investigation. It was just me and my then another investigator, a male investigator, and I heard something, and I said, "What was that?" And he said, "What was what?" And then you hear this woman say, "Are you trying to sleep?" And I go, "Is the TV on?" So I start talking as she's ending her words. So it's not me. But remember, it's not a whisper. It is like a woman is standing in the room with us. It's loud. So a lot of people miss it because they're waiting to hear like this EVP whisper. But it's a voice. All right. It's one of my faves.
What is that? Hey, turn the TV. Is the TV off?
Did you hear it?
I did. Are you trying to sleep?
Are you trying to sleep?
What is that? Hey, turn the TV. Is the TV off? Yeah, the cable box is still on.
So that was. I hope everybody watching can hear it, because literally.
Can you guys hear that out there? I know there's 8 people on here. Did you guys hear that? Someone comment if you heard it. No? Yes?
I hope they can hear that because that
would probably put them to sleep.
Earlier, when I was telling you, do you want me to play the door?
Go ahead and play that one too.
Play the door, and then that way, if.
I heard it.
Oh my God. That basement door just opened up.
So you could hear the clicking. It was like an old time wooden door, that there was like, you had to like push this thing down, and it opened up, and then you had to click. So you could hear the clicks happening. Almost
hey, Michelle says, can you play that one more time?
Which one?
The door.
The door.
Taryn, these are fascinating.
Now, you hear us like, I'm like, oh my God, the door just opens up. Let me, I'll show. So remember earlier we were talking about when I was at the Batstow Cemetery. I want to play these for you too, because you guys will love these too. I said, now these are a little louder. I said for our second EVP, I said, it's Taryn. My sister says Kim. Her husband says Eric. It was only 3 of us. And then you hear Beth in unison.
Now for our second EVP, it's Taryn, Kim, Eric.
Now that was a whisper. So I could play it again, but did you hear it?
I heard it. Mm-hmm.
Now for our second EVP, it's Taryn, Kim, Eric.
I heard it. Yep.
All right. And then
the EVPs are like my favorite thing about the paranormal. That's my absolute favorite.
Me too. This was at the same place, Ascalon Cemetery. This one. So, I'm sorry, hold on. So, it got really dark, and I got a little scared. Again, I was in my amateur days. And I said to my sister, again, it was just me and my sister and her husband. I said, where's the car at? They didn't answer me. So I asked again, where's the car at? And then something buzzed in my ear. My sister does say a curse word. I hope it's okay that it's on there. If you want to,
go ahead, play it.
Okay.
We only got like 2 more minutes.
All right. Yeah, this is really good. So listen to after the first time I ask where the car is. And again, nobody answers because I ask again.
Yeah, where's the car?
So I say, where's the car at? And you hear, it's over here. That's where I came from.
I heard it.
I'll play it again. And then you hear something go, but to me, it sounded like a buzzing noise. And my sister said it sounded like somebody coughing. So she actually heard she heard a disembodied voice.
That's so, wow.
All right.
Yeah, where's the car? Where's the car at? Something just buzzed in my ear. That sounded like somebody fucking car.
Wow, I love that.
And then I know we have 2 minutes. Hold on. You gotta hear the Rockwell.
Well, while you're calling that up, tell me real quick, where can people find you?
Definitely find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Paranormal Brew is live every Wednesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And I have a different guest. I'm in my 8th year. So April 1st will be 8 years for Paranormal Brew. So I'm excited about that. So this is it at Penhurst. These 2 are at Penhurst in the Rockwell Tunnel. And you can clearly hear something. It does say, leave the devil worship, but I don't know what it says after that.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
It almost had an echo to it as well.
Well, we were in the tunnel, so the tunnels, which is interesting, right?
Yeah,
but
it's
here,
really interesting.
Leave the devil. Like you hear. We're talking, but you can hear behind us that something's like saying, like, leave the either devil worshiper. I don't know. And one more for you guys. I know you gotta go. This is just a sigh.
They're probably like a quarter mile away from us, and it's that intense.
Was that you sighing? Did you just sigh?
I do not know.
You did?
I leave that in there because I will always leave in the after, because if I hear something and I pick it up on the recorder, I like to leave it. Did you hear the sigh?
I did. Yep.
So crazy. It was in between everybody.
Well, Taryn, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. We are out of town. They're going to kick me off. So
Okay.
we're going to go. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'll definitely have you come back on. And Gettysburg, guys. I'm going to Gettysburg. Taryn's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of stuff. There's going to be a lot of battlefields. It'll be my first time out there. I'm actually going to be a vendor. I'm excited. So I'll get those dates out of when we'll be out there.
Yeah, and when I come back on, I can share more EVPs, and
Oh, yes.
EVPs are my thing. So I thank you so much for having me. Thank you to all your people watching and asking questions and chiming in. Thank you so much. I love you guys.
Thank you, Taryn. So, what an interesting show, guys, right? I just love anything Civil War. I've lived it for a couple years when I lived in Nashville. And you know what? I don't care what anybody says. When you really look at the horrors of what was happening with that Civil War, I know we have a lot of, we have a lot of turmoil going on right now in our society. There's a lot of people on either side of the fence with politics and whatever it may be. But, looking back at what was going on in the Civil War, we're still not there, guys. We're not at that point. So there's still hope. You've been listening to The Gateway, your portal to the unexplained, the mystical, and the otherworldly, broadcast live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans. Next week, Nathaniel Allwell will be on, and we're going to be talking about topas. Now, he was supposed to be on a few weeks ago. Remember, he had to cancel because he had an emergency, but he's coming on next week. So, and a magazine is coming out. I'm really sorry, you guys. It's on its way out. So the good thing is, though, because we're not doing shows or anything in Erie Expeditions, it really doesn't matter about the months and time frames and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of a different magazine. So it'll be out soon, though, in the next week. Until next time, see you next week, guys.